Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different from my usual stuff. Today we are going to be reading The King in Yellow by Robert W. Chambers. Note, I am not a good reader, so don't expect like top tier narration. I just thought it'd be a fun little hobby to do today since I was like, well, I want to stream, but I also told myself that this year I would try to finish a book. So I decided to pick up The King in Yellow because actually I got into the Minecraft world that doesn't exist. It's a great series. I recommend it. And I thought, oh, you know what would be fun? Read The King in Yellow. Actually give the OG story a chance. Now, I know a little bit about it. I watched Wendigoon's video of it, but I thought it'd be a fun read and people can watch me suck butt about how bad I can read words and letters and all that fun stuff. So anyway, let's get started. Chapter 1. The Repair of the Reputations. Chapter 1. Towards the end of the year 1920, the government of the United States had practically completed the program adopted during the last months of President Winthrop. How is it that I've read this word? Oh, I'm quiet? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let me fix that. Oh, a bit quiet on the viewer's side. That's odd, because my mic is, like, right here. That's so weird. Let me try. How's that? Is it still quiet? Let me, how's that? Does it sound better? I'm going to guess it sounds better. Okay, perfect. Alright. So, President Winthrop's administration. The country was apparently tranquil. Everybody knows that how the tariffs and the labor questions were settled. The war with Germany incident, that the country's seizure of the Solomon Islands had left no visible scars upon the Republic, and the temporary occupation of Norfolk by the invading army had been forgotten in the joy. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm right now. It's fine, Haku. I'm just sitting here reading today. No visible scars upon the Republic, and the temporary occupation of the Norfolk by the invading army had forgotten the joy of repetition naval victories and the subsequent ridiculous plight of General von Gertenlob. I am so sorry if I butchered that, and due to how close I had to get to the book just to read the word, my VTuber tracking is completely thrown off. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller. There we go. That's much better. I'm gonna move this over just a bit, make it bigger. Then von Gertenlob, not von Gertenwolf. It's The King in Yellow. So I'm not good when it comes to reading. Alright, continuing our reading. Forces in the state of New Jersey, the Cuban and Hawaiian investments had paid 100% of the territory Samara, as well as the worth of the coaling station of the country. Interesting. The more you know. Alright. Was in a superb state of defense. Every coast city had been well supplied with fortifications. The army, under the parental eye of the general staff, organized according to the Persian system. Organized according to the Persian system, had been increased to 300,000 men, with territorial reserves of the millions, and 6 magnificent squadrons and cruisers and battleships patrolled the 6 stations patrolled the 6 stations of the Negligible Seas, leaving the stream reserved to imply fitted to control home waters, and the gentlemen of the West had control waters. My bad. U in German usually is an O or a long U. Oh, okay. The more you know. All right, continuing. I lost my place. Excuse me. Necessarily as law schools are for training the barristers. Consequently, we had no longer represented abroad by the incompetent patriots. The nation was prosperous. I'm sorry. Was prosperous. Chicago, for a moment, paralyzed after the Great Fire, had risen from the ruins. The white imperial, the more beautiful than the white city, which had been built as its plaything in 1893. Wherever good architecture had been replaced, bad, even in the New York, a sudden craving for decency had swept away the great nation of the existing trees. I think I completely butchered that sentence, and my tracking was completely off because of me trying to read. Okay, I'm gonna try to sit up. That way my camera can catch me as I read. I'm gonna actually move the hand further forward so I actually look like I'm reading. Okay, continuing. Let's see, where was I? I just lost where I was. I lost my spot. This is why I can't. I am like such an ADHD. I wouldn't be surprised if I had ADHD for the fact that I lost my spot in my book that I'm trying to read out loud, because I thought, you know what? I need to learn to read properly, so why not read a book purposely out loud on live and have people just make fun of me until I get better at it. Connection real bad on my side, so I might have to come back in a bit. Good luck with your stream, Ian. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Haku. Bye-bye. Let's see, where do we go here? Trees had been planted. Okay, so let's see. Properly paved and lighted, trees have been planted, squares laid out, elevated structures demolished in the underground. Oh, it's only gonna be me. Don't worry, I don't mind. Played out existing horse streets have widened, properly paved with the light, blah, 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 blah. Laid out, elevated structures demolished, the underground roads built to replace them. The new government building on barracks were fine bits of architecture, and the long system of stone quarry which completely surrounded the island had been turned into parks, which proved a godsend. Which proved a godsend to the population. The subsidizing of the state, the state theater and the state opera brought its own rewards. The United States National Academy of Design was much like European institutions of the same kind. Nobody arrives to the sanctuary of fine arts, either this cabinet's portions, positions, or the portfolio. I can't read today. I told myself, oh, I'm gonna try to read today, and here I am, sucking at reading. But it doesn't stop me, because if I don't, I'll just forever be sucky at reading. That's why I'm reading out loud. And I lost my place again. Gosh dang it. New government building, system, godsend, population, theater, and opera had its own rewards. The United States National Academy of Design was much like European institutions of the same kind. Nobody evaded the sanctuary of the fine arts, either his cabinet positions or his portfolios. The sanctuary of the Forsty, the game preservation had much easier time reading out loud to strangers on the internet. Yep, that's my job. It's a good way to learn, and it's a good way to improve my social skills, is reading out loud. And I thought, hey, it'll be fun. Someone could clip my funny little mix-ups. And I don't know. I thought it'd be a fun little thing. And honestly, that's why I do it. Alright. Game preservation was much easier at the time thanks to the new system of the National Mounted Police. We had profited well by the latest treaties with France and England, the exclusion of the foreign-born Jews as a good measure for self-preservation. Oh, the exclusion. To TikTok and Twitch, this book was published in 1895. So please do not hate me. Alright. The settlement of the new independent I'm not gonna say that to avoid getting my... I stream every 3 months. The new independent end state of Suan, the checking of immigration, the new laws concerning naturalization, and the gradual centralization of power in the exclude of contribution to the national claim, prosperity, even when the government solved the Indian problem, the quadrones of the Indian cavalry scouts and the native costumes were substituted for a pitiful organization of track. I am getting in so much trouble with how many times I am butchering this book and how much this book has a lot of stuff. For those who are just joining, we're reading The King in Yellow. So, and this is like the first chapter. Note, I don't condone any of the stuff in this book. I mean, it is, again, a work of fiction. So, it's going off of what the author thinks because this was published in 1895. So, this is his take on the modern world. So, if anybody's listening, please don't kill me. Alright, let's see. Climb prosperity. When the government solved the Indian cavalry scouts in native costume were distributed for the pitiable organizations to track on the tail of the skeletized regiments of the former Secrety of War. The national draw a long sigh of relief when after the concealed Colossal Congress of Religions, bigotry and intolerance were laid in their graves. The kindness and charity began to draw wearing sense together. Many thought the Lamellian. I can't read the Lamel. The okay. The Lennium had arrived at least in the New World, which, after all, is a world by itself. But the self-preservation of the first law of the United States had to look on in helpless sorrow as Germany, Italy, Spain, Belgium withered in the throes of anarchy, while Russia, watching the the chaos, chaos, stooped and bound them one by one. Oh, the carcass? I can't read. Bound by one. In the city of New York, summer 1899, we organized by this. 1899, we signalized by discriminating the elevated railroads. In the summer of 1900, we lived of the New York and the we live in the memories of New York people New York people. Many a circle of Doge statues was removed in that year. In the following winter began the agitation for the repeal laws prohibited suicide, which bore final fruit on the month of April 1920, when the government's first lethal chamber was opened in Washington Square. Oh yeah. So also bedtime story. Also, what's up? What's up, Marco? We're doing the book The King in Yellow by Robert W. Chambers, and I thought it'd be a fun little read because I thought it'd be fun to read to a bunch of strangers on a Friday afternoon because, you know, not only just to get something out, but also to, you know, learn how to be how to speak better when in the presence of other people. All right. Okay. When the first government lethal chamber was opened on Washington Square, I walked down that day from Dr. Archer's house on Madison Avenue, where I had been as a mere formality ever since that fall of my house. 4 years before, I had been troubled at times with pain in the back of my head and neck, and now for the months they had been absent, and the doctor sent me away that day, saying that there was nothing more to be cured in me. Interesting. Hi, remember, hello pizza, welcome to the stream, welcome. We're reading The King in Yellow, so sit back and enjoy. And I'm hoping my stream didn't just cut off. Alright, continuing. Alright, let's see, where was I? The pains in my back and my neck were absent, and the doctor sent me away to be cured and hardly forthwith. Well, to be told that I know myself still, I did not grudge him the money. I did not grudge him the money. I cannot read. Why can I not read this properly? Ugh. Let's see. It was hardly worth his fee to be told that. I knew myself. I still didn't grudge him the money. What? Stage fright. I'm not having stage fright. I just suck at reading. I didn't grudge him the money. What I minded was the mistake which was made at first when they picked me up from the pavement where I lay unconscious, and somebody had mercifully sent a bullet through my horse's head, and as I was carried to Dr. Ancher, and he pronouncing my brain effective, placed me in his private asylum where I was. Hello, pizza. Welcome back. Hold on. I'm gonna readjust myself because it is hard to read sitting like that. All right. So Doctor puts the character in a private asylum. Let's see. Dr. Archer had pronounced my and he carried me to Dr. in a private asylum where I was obliged to endure treatment for insanity. Okay. Good to know. Treatment for insanity. At last, he decided that I was well, and knowing that my mind had been as sound as his, if not sounder, paid my tuition, he said jokingly, called it, and left. I told him, smiling, that I would get even with him for his mistake, and he laughed heartedly and asked me to call him once in a while. I did so, hoping for the chance that to even I cannot read. Chance to even up accounts, but he gave me none, and I told him I could wait. The fall from my house had unfortunately left no evil results on the country had changed my whole character for the better. From a lazy young man about town, I had become active and energetic and temperate, and above all else, ambitious. There was only one thing that would trouble me. I laughed at my own uneasiness, and yet it troubled me. I am trying so hard and I am failing so freaking miserably to read this. Welcome to Reading Time with Ian, where I can't read for the life of me, so my entire mind just is like, yeah, let's just screw it up and make it harder for me. During the convalescence, I had bought and read the first time The King in Yellow. I remember finishing the first act that occurred to me, and I remember after finishing the first act that it occurred to me that I had to stop for the better, or I had better stop. I started to flung the book into the fireplace. The volume struck a barred gate. Oh, okay. Let me try that again. During my convalescence, I had bought and read the first time The King in Yellow. I remember finishing the first act that it occurred to me that I had better stop reading. That I had better stop. I remember after finishing the first act that it occurred to me that I had better stop. There we go. If I reread a couple sentences, I'm trying to read it properly, and forgive me for that. But I had better stop. Alright. I started up and flung the book into the fireplace. The volume struck the barrel gate and fell open, reading on the hearth of the fireplace. If I had not caught a glimpse of the words for a second, I should have never finished. I should have never finished it, but I was swooped and picked up, my eyes becoming relevated on the open page, and a cry of terror perhaps it was of joy prolonged. I suffered in every nerve. I snatched the thing out of the coals and crept shaking into my room where I read it and reread it, and wept and laughed and trembled and with horror at times assails me yet. Let me try that again. I snatched the thing out of the coals and crept shaking to my room where I had read it and reread it, and wept and laughed and trembled with with a horror which in times assails me. The thing is the thing that troubles me. The thing that troubles me, for I cannot forget Carcosa, where the black stars hung in the heavens before the shadows of men, men's thaw lengthens in the afternoon, when the twin suns sink into the lake of high. My mind will bear for every memory of the pallid mask. I pray to God will cure the writer, as the writer had cursed the world with this beautiful, stupendous creation, terrible in its simplicity, irritable in its truth, a world which now trembles before the King in Yellow. I am not good at reading today. Give me a, and there is a bot, and my mod's out, so we're going to have to, I think I can fix it through my, give me a sec. I think I can do it through my own, let's see, creator dashboard. No, I can do this. I can figure this out. I'm smart. I'm very, very smart. I am not smart. I am trying. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay. I'm gonna probably have to remove some things, so. Oh well. Okay. Well, we'll deal with that later. For the time being, we'll just continue to read. All right. Continuing on our little crazy reading. How is the stream rates too high? It's like literally okay, thank you, Haku. I don't even remember where I was. We're going to have to, don't worry, we'll bluff this. Okay, Carcosa, the pallid mask. I pray to God that this writer, as the writer had cursed the world with a beautiful, stupendous creation, terrible in its simplicity, irresistible in its truth, a world which now trembles before the King in Yellow. When the French government seized the translated copies, which had just arrived in Paris, London, of course, it became eager to read it. Or London, of course, became eager to read it. It is well known that how the book spread like an infectious disease from city to city, from city to city, from continent to continent, barred out here, confiscated there, denounced by I am so sorry. I am trying to read this and I am sucking terribly. Forgive me. Let me see if I can get this right. Continent to... And I lost my place. City to city, continent to continent, barred here, confiscated there, denounced by the press and pulpit, censored even by the most active, advanced of literary anarchists. No indefinite principles had been violated in those wicked pages. No... Can't read, I'm gonna cry. I just lost my place. I am so... Principles of, city to city, country to confiscated, but anarchists. Denounced by anarchists, no definite principles had been violated in those wicked pages. No doctrine promulgated, no convictions outraged. No convictions outraged. It could not be judged by any known standard yet, although it was acknowledged that the supreme note of art had been struck in The King of Yellow. All felt that human nature could not bear the strain, nor thrive on words in which the essence of the purest position lurked in every banality, I think, blatantly, and innocence of the first act only allowed the blow to fall forward, in which more awful effects was set. It was, I remember, the 13th day of April, 1920, when the first government lethal chamber was established in the south side of Washington Square, between the Wooster Street and the South Fifth Avenue. The block, which had formerly consisted of shabby old buildings used as cafes and restaurants for forgiveness, had been acquired. Shabby old building used as cafes and restaurants for foreigners had been acquired by the government in the winter of 1898. The French and Italian cafe restaurants were torn down, and the whole block was enclosed gilded iron railings and converted into a lovely garden of lawns, flowers, and fountains. In the center of the garden stood a small white building, severely classical architecture, surrounded by thicket flowers. Six ionic columns supported the roof, and a singular door of bronze. For those who are listening to my crappy readings, forgive me, I suck. But it doesn't stop me from trying, because that's what a person should always do. If you can't read, learn to read. Or at least that's what I say. Alright, continuing. A splendid marble group of the Fates stood before the door. The work of a young American sculptor, Boris Vian, who had died in Paris when he was only 23 years old, and the inauguration ceremonies were in progress. As I crossed University Places and entered the square, I threaded my way through the silent throngs of spectators, but was stopped at the 4th Street by the cordon police. An arrangement in the United States lanyards were drawn up the hollows around the lethal chamber. On a raised tribune facing Washington Park stood the governor of New York, and behind him were a group of the mayors of New York and Brooklyn, the inspectors of the General of Police, and the commandant of the state troops, Colonel Livingston. Military aid to the President of the United States, General Blount, commending the government island, Major General Hamilton, commanding the garrison of New York and Brooklyn, Admiral Baffy of the fleet in the northern rivers of Sovereign General Lanford. I am already having a hard time. I'm still having a hard time reading, but it won't stop me because I got guts. And I lost my place again. The Northern Reverend Sergeant General Lance Ford, the staff of the National Hospital Senators, Public Works, and the tribute was surrounded by the squadrons of Hausers of the National Guard. The governor was finishing his reply to the short speech of the Surgeon General. All I heard him say, "The laws prohibit suicide, and providing punishment for any attempt at self-destruction had been repealed. The government has seen fit to acknowledge the right of a man to end existence which may have become intolerable to him through physical suffering or mental despair. It was believed the community will be..." Honestly, when you think about it, how are they gonna punish you for attempting? Because, like, they can't stop you. You'll already be gone. I just realized I could do that. Okay. Anyways, focus. We're going back into focus mode. Focus. We're going back to focusing on the book. Alright. I'm gonna try to read down to this next page and then we'll end it here. Mental despair is believed that it believes that a community will be benefited by the removal of such people from their midst. Since the passage of the law, a number of suicides in the United States had not increased. Now the government has determined and established the lethal chain in every city of and village in the country. That it remains to be seen whether or not a class of human creation from whose desponding rank new victims of self-destruction daily at will. Except the relief provided. Hold on, my head's spinning again. Let's try to finish this. Except the relief thus provided, he paused and turned to the white lethal chamber. The silence in the street was absolute. There is a painless death awaits him. Who can no longer bear the sorrows of this life. In death is welcomed. Let him seek it there. Then equally turning the then quickly turning to the military aide and the president Housel said, "I declare the lethal chamber open." And again, facing the vast crowd, a clear voice, "Citizens of New York." I almost said York. My bad. "Citizens of New York." I'm so sorry if you can hear the barking of the dogs. I don't know how to fix that. Citizens of New York, citizens of New York and of the United States of America, through me, the government has declared the lethal chambers open. The Solomon hushed was broken by a sharp cry of command. The squadron of hustlers filed the government carriage and lancers formed the Fifth Avenue, awaited the commandant and mounted the police followed them. I felt the crowd gape and stare at the white marble death chamber, and across the South Fifth Avenue, walked along the western side. I'm so sorry to people listening. Said the South Fifth Avenue. Walked along the western side of the Suffolk Bleak Street, and I turned the right and stopped at the Dingling Shop. Hawbrake Armory. Armor. How many pages is this chapter? Okay, so I see I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I got five more pages, and then I enter Act 2 of the first chapter. And once we reach that, I'm gonna end the stream. I glanced at the doorway and saw Hawberk busy in his little shop at the end of the hall. He looked up, but he looked up and catching sight of me carried his deep, hearty voice. "Come in, Mr. Castagine. Yo. Welcome back. Mr. Castagine. Mr. Castagine. I am so sorry, people. Come in, Mr. Castagine. Constance, his daughter Rose, met me as I crossed the threshold and held out her pretty hand. But I saw a blush of disappointment on her cheek, and knew that it was another scene she had expected. My cousin Lewis. I smiled at her confusion and complimented her on the banner she was embroidered from the colorful plate. Old Hawberk sat retrieving the worn greaves of some ancient suit of armor, and the ting of his little hammer sounded pleasantly in the quaint shop. Pleasantly, he dropped the hammer and fussed about for a moment with a tiny wrench. The soft clash of mail sent a thrill of pleasure through me. I love to hear the music of steel. My throat is killing me right now. Brushing against the steel of the meadow, the shock of a mallet pierced the jingle of the chain armor. That was the only reason I went to see Hawberk. He had never interested me personally, nor did Constance expect the fact of being in love with Lewis did occupy my attention. I am butchering this book already left and right, and I am so sorry to the creator that I am butchering your masterpiece. Okay. Let me try to see if I can read that. He never interested me personally, nor did Constance. Except for the fact that her being with Lewis. This would occupy my attention and sometimes even kept me awake at night. But I knew in my heart that that would come right. I am like now having a headache just trying to read this because I have never been good at reading out loud. I'm gonna die. But I knew in my heart that it would come right, and I should arrange for their as an exception to their age at the Dr. John Anchor. However, I should never have troubled myself about visiting them, and just then it had not been as. You know what? We're gonna end the book reading here. For some reason, I can't finish the page. I think my body is telling me, okay, that's enough, and that's why I can't. Well, I'm gonna try to at least finish this page first, though, because I ain't gonna give up that quick, because then I'll forget. However, I should never have troubled myself in visiting, and then it had been not been. As I say that the music of the tinkering hammer had me this strong fascination that would really redeem Pat 50. Oh, okay. Thank you for the head pat. Sorry, the thing is not on right now, and my head is spinning. Thank you for the head pat. I'm sorry, I forgot to turn it on today. Let's try to continue this before I have a mental breakdown. I would sit for hours listening to the sun. When the sunbeam struck the anile steel, the sensation gave me almost a keen to endure. My eyes would become fixed, dilated with pleasure that stretched every nerve almost to breaking, until some movement of the old armor cut the ray of sunlight. When the thrill secretly, I leaned back and listened again. The sound of the polished rag wish rubbing against the rigorous consonants. Hello, welcome to the chat. We're right now trying to read The King in Yellow, and I suck. I don't even know what's going on. My eyes are being taken in two different directions, and my brain is not processing at the moment. I can't focus, dang it. Where was I? Thrilling, sacred, blah 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 blah. Wishes the constant work and the embodiment over the knee. Now the pausing, examine more closely at the pattern of colors. A plate of Metallas Museum, of the Metropolitan Museum. Who's this for? I asked. Harburg explained that in addition to the treasure of armor in the Metropolitan Museum, of which he had been appointed an armory, he had charge of several collections belonging to rich armatures of rich armatures. This was missing a greave, a famous suit which client of his feast traced a little shop of Paris saying Aki o of Kai di Osre. He Harburg had negotiated for a secure greave, and now the suit is complete. He laid down his hammer and read me the history of the suit, traced back to 1450 from the owner until it was acquired by Thomas Stainbridge when he was in the suburb collecting sold. The client Harburg, this client of Harburg's bought the suit, and since when searched for a missing greave and been pushed until it was almost by accident located in Paris. Okay. Okay, we're gonna end the book here. I suck at reading, but if any of you liked it, let me know. Yeah, I'm ending stream, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week. Remember, tomorrow's stream, new VTuber model at 5:30 or like 3:30 MST. Or Pacific Standard Time. My bad. Alright, bye everyone.